Hey, it is I, Heiku. Now, you may notice that I don't have my usual shitty microphone, and that's because the subject matter of today's video is actually serious. The subject of this video is a bit political, and I promise that I won't frequently make political content in the future, but this issue is extremely important. This issue could basically change the internet as we know it. Hell, it could even change more than the internet. It could change the entire industry of social networking apps. It could change censorship laws. It could change what information we can and cannot access. It can change a lot of things. I am, of course, talking about the KOSA bill, aka the Kids Online Safety Bill. Now, as of when I am beginning production on this video, July 30th, 2024, the KOSA bill has already passed in the Senate and is to move to the House. In case you're unfamiliar with how this works, basically what happens is that a bill is either introduced in the House or the Senate. If it gets passed in the Senate, it goes to the House to be voted on, and vice versa. And if it goes to the second chamber, House or Senate, and passes, it gets sent to the president. The president then has the choice to either veto it, meaning it doesn't become a law, or sign it, meaning the bill does become a law. So you can get an idea of what this bill is, I'm going to read the summary to you from congress.gov. This bill sets out requirements to protect minors from online harms. The requirements apply to covered platforms, which are applications or services, examples given social networks, that connect to the internet and are likely to be used by minors. However, the bill exempts internet providers, email services, educational institutions, and other specified entities from the requirements. Covered platforms must take reasonable measures in the design and operation of products or services used by minors to prevent and mitigate certain harms that may arise from that use. Examples given: sexual exploitation and online bullying. Additionally, covered platforms must provide minors with certain safeguards, such as settings that restrict access to minors' personal data, and parents or guardians with tools to supervise minors' use of a platform, such as control of privacy and account settings. Covered platforms must also disclose specified information, including details regarding the use of personalized recommendation systems and individual-specific advertising to minors, allow parents, guardians, minors, and schools to report certain harms, refrain from facilitating advertising of age-restricted products or services, examples given tobacco and gambling, to minors, and annually report on foreseeable risks of harm to minors from using the platform. Additionally, the bill requires large, based on specified revenue, employment, or user criteria websites, internet applications, and search engines, including social network sites, to meet certain requirements before using algorithms that prioritize information furnished to its user based on user-specific data. For example, such platforms must provide users with notice that the website uses such algorithms and make available a version of the platform that uses algorithms that do not prioritize information based on user data. The bill provides for enforcement through the Federal Trade Commission and states. Further, the bill requires the Commission to seek contract with the National Academy of Sciences to study the risks of harm to minors by the use of social media and other online platforms. The bill establishes a council to advise on implementing the bill. It also requires guidance for market and product research focused on minors and an evaluation of options to verify a user's age. Now, you might be thinking, Heiku, what's so bad about protecting kids from harassment and exploitation online, as well as protecting them from negative things caused by social media? And my answer is, there's nothing wrong with any of that, but this bill is not the way forward. This bill could result in things like use of an ID to verify age on a social networking platform, alongside increased monitoring and censorship, and hell, possibly even monitoring DMs. Now you might be thinking, hey Ku, aren't you exaggerating this a bit? And my answer is no. With this bill, monitoring, censorship, ID verification, and DM monitoring aren't exactly out of the realm of possibility. Let me get back to the second paragraph of the summary. Covered platforms must take reasonable measures in the design and operation of products. This bill may require social networking and social media sites to make reworks and modifications to their very design and operation in order to remain compliant with this bill. With this reworking of design meant to quote-unquote keep kids safe. What measures count as reasonable? What measures are you going to have to take in order to verify that someone using a social media platform is over or under the age of 18? How do you find out someone's real age? The answer: you force them to upload an image of their ID. After all, how else can you truly verify their age without having actual evidence? Now, if you think this sounds concerning, if you let it sink in, it really gets worse. Say you proceed to upload an image of your ID to the social media site so that you can be verified. Sometime later, that very same platform is attacked by hackers. The hackers then proceed to steal a lot of people's IDs, including yours, and then they send you an email telling you, hey, pay up or we are going to leak images of your ID all over the internet. It pretty much makes vulnerable social networking sites into watering holes for cyber criminals. It could make cyber crimes like extortion more common, which ironically makes the internet a worse place for minors. Now, as you may have also presumed, this bill is supposed to protect kids from the negative sides of social media, like predators, bad images of themselves, bullying, etc., etc. And they're pretty much using that as an excuse to carry out censorship and monitoring. Now, you might be thinking, wouldn't they just censor things harmful to minors? And my answer is, what is defined as harmful for minors? This bill gives no definition for what is harmful to minors. Could maybe a story, an article about what's going on around the world, a war, be considered harmful because that could upset kids? History contains violence. Could U.S. history articles be considered harmful? It's a very loose-ended question, but one of the senators behind this bill, Marsha Blackburn, has admitted herself that this bill is meant to be used as a weapon against the LGBTQ community. From there, you can fill in the blanks that the whole open-ended question of what is harmful is left up to the states to decide. Which I know is extremely alarming for any LGBT viewers in Texas or Florida. If the state deems resources for LGBT youth to be considered harmful, that could be cut off from them. It basically allows states to censor their own internet. Now, putting age verifications on sites like the Hub, I can understand that. I can get behind that. I can see where they're coming from. Kids by no means should be accessing that kind of content. But this wants to give states the power to censor things that aren't even not safe for work. Because according to this bill, anything the state says goes. And all the while, they are using the mask of protecting kids. And if you really think about what I said earlier about certain articles being censored for being deemed harmful, even if those articles are informational, it kind of makes it worse. They were probably like, Yeah, this bill, I agree with it. Instead of our kids finding out all the bad things in the world but growing to understand them, let's just hide it from them until they're 18. What could possibly go wrong? Yep, let's just sanitize the internet to hell. It's also very likely that restricting LGBT youth from resources because of them being deemed harmful could also lead to higher suicide rates among them. Now, you have to admit that even if you do or don't support the LGBT community, higher suicide rates are bad, especially among youth. One could even argue that the KOSA bill is unconstitutional. The First Amendment, which includes freedom of speech and freedom of the press, is violated by the KOSA bill, since the KOSA bill removes speech that is considered quote-unquote harmful, as well as censoring things that are quote-unquote harmful. The Fourth Amendment also protects against unwarranted searches and seizures, which the KOSA bill violates by forcing companies to monitor their users and thus violating their privacy via unwarranted searches. Which I mean, the companies will have no choice to, they will have to do this to avoid liability for anything that happens. As the bill says, the companies will be held responsible for what happens on their platforms. Regardless of if they have a choice to or not to do this, this is still a violation of the Fourth Amendment. And the reason this bill isn't receiving a lot of flack is possibly because of the fact that they are using the guise of protecting children as a Trojan horse. And it really is a effective moral Trojan horse because nobody wants to veto anything that's supposed to protect kids. Because why would you be opposed to protecting the kids? In fact, they had the families of teenagers and kids who committed suicide due to social media related things in Senate while it was being voted on, telling those senators their experiences and why this bill supposedly is a good thing. Now, I have nothing against those families, and my heart and my condolences really do go out to them. But it really sickens me to see how the autocrats who want this bill to be passed are weaponizing their grief and their children's deaths for their own ends. Now, if you have lost a family member to suicide related to social media, I feel sorry for you. I absolutely do, but this bill is flawed. It's not the way forward. There are better, more reasonable ways to hold big tech accountable than this. And plus, I've always heard that if people bring in the think of the kids argument, that's a sign of desperation. But yeah, overall, there are better ways to hold big tech accountable without causing the suffering of marginalized youth. And there certainly are better ways to go about this than monitoring and ID verification and censorship. Now, I know that one person simply making a video isn't going to make a difference by itself. I'm certain that a congressman could probably care less about what some stranger on the internet with a Morgana profile picture has to say about this. But that's where you come in, you watching the video. Congressmen are supposed to be the voices of their people, and thus you, as their people, must make your voices heard to them. This bill has passed through the Senate, but there is still time to act before it passes through the House. As of when this video is being made, Congress is currently in recess and will be in recess until early September. There is still time to act. There's a window of opportunity, but that window is closing. Contact your local congressperson in any way, whether if it be calling them or emailing them, and tell them, do not support this bill. I know Republican congresspeople probably won't care about what happens to marginalized youth, but you should also make it clear to them that this will affect conservative youth too, as they will still experience monitoring and censorship, along with age verification. It also wouldn't hurt to tell them that some states may interpret the Bible as being harmful due to it containing some inappropriate content, and as a result may censor it on the internet. And since it is deemed as harmful, it could be removed from the internet, which in turn violates the First Amendment. Despite the bipartisan support this bill has, it will negatively affect both parties negatively. But yeah, contact your congressperson and make it clear why they should not support this bill. There is still time to act. Do not waste it. It is up to you, the people, to decide the fate of the internet. Make your voices heard. Because nearly everybody in this country who uses the internet will be affected by this. I've also realized that this bill is getting an alarmingly low amount of news coverage. And because of this, I recommend you tell everyone you know about this, friends, family, neighbors, etc. The internet is at stake. I'll end the video here. But reach out to your congresspeople in any way you can. And remember, eat hibachi and never goon.